Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We will give everyone a couple of minutes as they arrive, but we do thank you very much for taking your lunch hour with us. You may, like I say, be capitalizing on a lunch window, so we appreciate your time today. We have quite a few participants, which is really wonderful. It is, unfortunately, I can't see all of you, but it was just really nice to see all of your names in our registration. It's been a long time since we've been able to see you, other than quickly outdoors for pickup and various things. So it's nice to be able to get together in this format and share, continuing our connections. Though we're fortunate to have your children in the building with us every day, so much better than last spring when I was presenting to you and not being able to still see your children. That this is a great opportunity to connect with you, despite not being able to do that in person. So I'll introduce our speakers in a couple of minutes as we wait for everyone to join the chat. We do have Jillian Shadley, who is coordinator of wellness department in junior school, or across the school, sorry. And as well, we have our junior school counselor, Kaylee Ray, with us today. So they will be the presenters for us today, but I just wanted to start with a couple of housekeeping items and some points to share with you as we move into already mid-February. So we are doing this presentation today. We also have another presentation coming up in March, after the March break, where we will discuss internet and online safety. We will have a speaker who will come and speak to the students, as well as they will be doing a parent presentation as well. So that's something else that we have planned coming up. So if you do we will address technology in some ways today, but if you do have more questions on that, we do have a speaker coming, and we'll share more information with you on that. We do recognize, I think, that this topic, we did some sessions last spring. We did a session with our counselors. And although your children are here with us every day, which I do feel fortunate each and every day that we get to come to school, we still know that there are a lot of challenges that these children are experiencing. And a lot of it around for us as well, social, emotional, and physical well-being, parenting dynamics. I know as a parent, we are being tested more than ever before. The other night I had a webinar to attend, and having put my children to bed without anyone else for the last year, just asking for a reprieve from that is challenging. That they're built in all of these new routines, and so we also have challenges in our relationships. Siblings as well, or children who don't have siblings, are also going through different things. So we're really going to discuss the children's well-being, but as well as your role as parents and what you can do, and dynamics in your household, how we can support these students. What we will do today is that we would like this to be an interactive session somewhat. So although we can't see you, we will be using the Q&A today. So if you have any questions during the presentation, please use the Q&A feature, and that will be sent directly to us. We will take a time to address the questions, and we'll be monitoring as we go, but it's possible we may not get to your question during the presentation, or maybe we feel it's a very specific question to you, but we will follow up with you thereafter by phone or by email. So please, even if it is more personal, the Q&A is a private feature, so it's just shared with ourselves, so we can follow up with you. For now, if you can speak more generally, then questions that can apply to the group, and then also feel free to reach out to any of us by phone or email if we haven't been able to address your concerns. So without further ado, I'd like to say thank you again for joining us. I do hope that you find it informative, and we've tried to share some resources with you, because I know that there's a lot to be shared on this topic. So Miss Jillian Shadley will be the next step for our presentation. So I hope you enjoy, and we'll see you for questions shortly. Miss Shadley, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Thank you again for taking the time to join us for our discussion today. My name is Jillian Chadley. Obviously, I'm the coordinator of wellness and outreach at LCC. I work with all the students right from kindergarten to pre-U. I'm also a parent. I have two children in the junior school in grade 4 and 6. So I've read all the questions, and a lot of those questions are things that are being discussed in my house as well. So I'm going to introduce Miss Ray in one sec. But the other thing I just want to let you know is I'm going to be putting up two polling questions for you. I'll put the first one up, and when I see everyone's answered, I'll put up the second one. If you could just take a few minutes to answer those two questions. We will circle back certainly to the second one for sure later on in our discussion. So if you could take a couple minutes to do that, that'd be great. Ms. Ray, would you like to go ahead?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. I'm Kaylee Ray, or kids know me as Miss Ray, and I am the junior school counselor replacing Robbie Caspin, who was on maternity leave. I'm so happy to meet you. My background is as a creative arts therapist and drama specialist, as well as a social worker working with children and families. I've been going into classrooms and meeting all your children and really enjoying our discussions and our activities together. And as I answer questions later, I'll be getting into some of the things that I've been teaching them. So welcome. And we're now going to show you, I guess we're going to wait for the poll. And then we're going to be showing you a clip that Jillian's going to tell you about.
And just in terms of the polling, it's totally anonymous, by the way. All I see is numbers going up. I can't see who's answered what. So I should have mentioned that ahead of time. So we're at about 70, 80% almost here. I will take a moment. We are going to be showing you a video that's the speaker we're going to show you is named Lynn Lyons. Many of you may be familiar with her. She actually did come to Montreal last year. I can't remember if it was before Christmas or after, but she came and she spoke to the QAIS community. She is a very well-known psychologist out of the United States who specializes in anxiety in children and works a lot with families. So this clip is from before school started in September. She put this clip out in the late summer, but the issues and the things she discusses we think are very relevant still for us. So we wanted to give you that, a few moments with that clip. And then we were going to have a conversation after that. Sorry, I'm just waiting for this. We're almost at 100%. I will also say about Lynn Lyons, if you do like her and you think that what she says really resonates with you, you can like her on Facebook and follow her. She puts up a lot of podcasts. She actually offers parenting courses. She's a very good resource if you feel that her style would be beneficial for your children.
Hi, everybody. It's Lynn Lyons. I thought I'd just check in because I am hearing a lot of information coming in about how people are making decisions about going back to school in the fall and how that's going to impact their families, how it's going to impact your own work, and a lot of concerns and a lot of worry. And I, of course, am an anxiety person, and I talk to families all the time about how to manage their worry and handle their anxiety. Except as a clinician, because I specialize in anxiety, I'm generally talking to people who are saying, I'm anxious, or I have an anxiety disorder, or my kid's anxiety is really getting in the way. What should I do? And I think that what's happening now is that we are all feeling anxious. So I am talking to you, not the select group of people who identify themselves as struggling with anxiety, but all of us, because this is an incredibly anxious time. And if you are a parent right now trying to figure out what you're going to do in the fall and you don't have any worry, well, gosh, I haven't met you. So I want to talk about people that are not experienced with anxiety, not the people that have had some therapy or some information or people that have worked on this or researched this. I want to talk to the people who I might call the anxiety rookies. People who are saying, I have never felt this way. I have never been this anxious before. I didn't even know I could worry so much. And so if you are familiar with my work, if you've read my books or you've been to some of my trainings, or maybe if even you're one of the families that I've worked with, what I'm going to talk about, the three things I want to talk about right now, may seem basic to you, may seem familiar to you because you are conversant in worry language. For those of you that are experiencing this for the first time, understandably, I want to just give you some really critical information about how worry works and to help you understand how it's impacting you, your parenting, and your children right now. So the first thing that I want you to know is that you might be underestimating the impact that worry is having on your thinking, your decision making. You might even be underestimating the impact that it has on your physical body. When worry is in charge, worry is a thought process that actually goes to worst case scenarios. It loves to be catastrophic. It loves to be sensationalized. It takes you to those places that, as you're thinking, actually set off your alarm system as if your body and your brain are in imminent danger. So as you're trying to make these decisions and the worry is there, it impacts your ability to think about reasonable risk. It impacts your ability to be a critical thinker. It impacts your ability to make decisions based on facts rather than emotion, because worry and the reaction that it causes is primitive and it's a survival mechanism. So if you are feeling like you're not able to think straight, if you're feeling like you're overwhelmed, if you're feeling like you're not able to sort out what you should do and what you shouldn't do, worry has a part to play in that. The other thing to remember is that worry has a big impact on your body. So if you are experiencing difficulty with sleep, if you are having headaches, maybe you have never really had physical symptoms before, but your appetite is funky or your digestive system is funky. This is because the process of worry and chronic worry, which is what we've been doing for a few months now, sets off these systems in your body. Again, it's designed for emergencies, and when it moves into this chronic place, it wears us down. The analogy I often use is that when you're chronically worrying about something, it's like sitting in your car and pressing the brake and the gas at the same time. And your body just it reacts and it wears out, and you might be feeling things. Also remember that worry is having the same impact on your kids, and that worry is contagious. So if you are noticing that you're impatient and your kids are impatient, that they're more irritable and you're more irritable, that you get frustrated easily or quickly, or that your kids aren't capable, you think, what is going on in your head? Remember that worry hijacks our ability to have rational thought. So pay attention to that. I heard something recently, well, I read it actually. It was an article online from a reputable parenting magazine, and it talked about all the things you need to take into account as you're making the decision about whether to send your kid back to school or not. And what was interesting about it is that the article ended by saying, look, this is a really impossible situation and you need to trust your gut. And I was like, trust your gut, right? Worry totally impacts our digestive system. And if you are very worried and very anxious right now, your gut is not the place to go to for information. Your gut, our digestive system, is really impacted in dramatic ways by stress, by anxiety, by chronic worry. So I'm going to call bullshit on that, right? Lynn calls bullshit. We're not going to trust your gut at this point. What you really want to do is to be able to separate out from the worry so that you can get your cognitive functioning back where it normally is. So one of the second thing to remember as we're thinking about handling all this worry and this anxiety is that anxiety is paradoxical. So the more that you try and get rid of it, the more that you say, I shouldn't be worried about this, or my kids shouldn't be worried about this, or I don't want to worry about this, or why am I worrying about this? The more that you freak out about the worry, the more that you worry about being worried, the stronger this thing gets. The more you try and push it away, the more that you try and eliminate it, the stronger it gets. That's the nature of how this thing works. So anything that you're doing that is really designed to eliminate it completely is going to backfire. And that may involve consistently trying to distract yourself. A little bit of distraction in a positive way is fine, but consistently trying to distract yourself, saying, I'm not going to think about this, saying that you shouldn't think about this, using self-medicating as a way to get rid of your worry. So turning to alcohol or other drugs is not going to help. It's going to make it worse. So what's the opposite of pushing it away? The opposite of that is recognizing it, allowing it, even welcoming it. The two words that can be enormously helpful to you as you're going through this process with yourself and with your children, the two words are, of course. Of course you feel worried right now. Of course you feel anxious right now because there's so much uncertainty. Worry demands certainty and comfort. It wants to know everything. And if it can't get certainty and if it can't get comfort, it says we're out. So this is why we avoid the things that we feel anxious about, because we don't like the way it feels. Being able to recognize it, step into it, allow it, give your kids language to talk about it, to say we are dealing with a lot of uncertainty right now and we can't control so much of what's going on around us. We have to tolerate being uncertain. One of the things we know about families where there's a lot of worry, one of the things that kids raised in worried families aren't so good at is tolerating uncertainty. So we want to roll around in the mights and maybes of life. It's perfectly fine for you to say to your kids, we don't know exactly how this is going to turn out. We can make some plans now, but we really have to tolerate the uncertainty. It's okay not to know. That's the language that you want to use. It's not about getting rid of it. It's not about denying it. It's not about saying, oh, everything will be fine. It's not about trying to give worry as much information as possible so that you quiet its demands, because that's just not going to work right now. So allow. We're going to expect the worry to show up. We're going to recognize it. We're going to help our kids articulate it. And we're not going to get sucked in to its catastrophic thinking, its sensationalizing, and we're not going to try and deny its existence, because it's just not going to work right now. So as you're thinking about what you can do to help as worry overcomes you, or you're feeling overwhelmed by it, or your kids are, think about reboots, a reset. So exercise, even sitting for 5 minutes and just focusing on your breath, doing things, putting loud music on, allowing yourself to just get a break from it is enormously helpful. Not denying, not dismissing, but saying, oh, I need to just take a little break from it because worry is here. We're going to have to deal with it. The third, and that leads me to the third thing with this, is that you need a break from this thing. And one of the myths of worry is that if I think enough, if I ruminate about this enough, if I go over it again and again, if I really dive into it, if I look for information, remember, because it's looking for certainty, that's going to make you feel better. There is a big difference between worrying and problem solving. Worry tends to be an internal activity that's pretty passive. So you're in your head just going over the same things over and over again, looking for answers, seeking clarity. You can't find it. It feels like you're being productive. It feels like you're doing the work that you need to do. But what you need to remember is that worry and ruminating are separate from problem solving, and that worrying does not protect you and does not protect your family. Worrying about something that either hasn't happened yet in that catastrophic way sets your body and your brain off into this emergency response that's just going to take its toll on you. Again, as I said, it's going to make you irritable. It's going to make you difficulty with your sleep. It's going to screw with your appetite. It's going to make you less effective when you're trying to parent your children. So if, for example, You don't know what's going to happen with school, and a lot of us don't know, and you can't predict exactly how this is all going to look. Give yourself a break right now from needing to think about this, from needing to stew in it. Worry wants you to stay with it. I want you to get some distance from it. I want you to find ways to take breaks from it. Maybe you even say, I'm not going to talk about this for the next 2 weeks. You don't have to talk to your kids about it every day. You don't have to look things up online every day. It really is fine to recognize that when it's time to problem solve, when action needs to be taken, that you will do that, but that you do not need to be in this constant process of ruminating and worrying. There are many people, pro-worriers, who feel like somehow that protects them. It's almost superstitious. If I worry about this enough, then things will go fine. That's not how this works. So take a break from it. Now, when you're taking this break from it, what do I want you to do with your kids? Well, there's a few things. Besides having fun, besides being outside, besides enjoying summer and letting your kids see you be able to enjoy it. The other thing that you might do is talk to your family about how you were successful during the spring. What did you do as a family that is indicative of your ability to be flexible, of your ability to be adaptable? This is a time to think about how you were successful. Doesn't mean perfect, but how it is that you guys feel good about the way that you manage things. So have that discussion, make a little chart, have a little award ceremony, whatever you want to do, because we want to connect you and your kids back to the fact that you were able to get through the first chunk of this, so that people feel a little bit more confident and a little bit more resilient about getting through the next chunk of this. The other thing that I really want you to pay attention to is that you have an opportunity right now with your kids to help them develop autonomy. In the fall, when all of this starts to happen, and you need your kids to be able to have some ability, depending on their age, some ability to manage independently, now is the time to practice that. Doesn't matter how you practice it. To me, the exact details of the autonomy practice don't matter, but you want to start using the language with your kids now that they can handle things, that they can independently take things on, that you can give them the space to manage without them having the idea that once school starts again, that you are going to be there every moment to make sure that everything goes well. So a little autonomy practice. So I have on the podcast, A Mom's Retreat, we're taking a little summer break right now. We're going to have some bonus episodes coming up over the summer. But I talk about these issues in greater detail. Please join the Facebook group so that you can have discussions with other parents. I know that loneliness and feeling like you're the only one going through this is really pervasive right now. So please join the Facebook group. You can go to amomsretreat.com. You can go to our Facebook page. We'd love to hear from you. We're going to be taking questions from listeners over the summer. And recognize that you cannot be in a state of worry. You cannot be in an internalized state thinking about these things and stay connected and present with your children at the same time. Worry does not allow you to experience joy. It does not allow you to be present. It doesn't allow you to take a break from all of the stuff going on that you don't have a lot of control over. So you're not going to eliminate it. You're going to recognize its power. You're going to acknowledge the impact that it has on your thinking. You're not going to trust your gut if you're worrying, because that's where worry lives. So step back from it a little bit and allow your kids the opportunity to connect with their successes and to connect with their autonomy. So hang in there. I know this is not an easy time, and that's putting it mildly. I wish you well. Enjoy your children. Be present with them. Even in the midst of incredible stress, moments of joy are possible, and they are so critical to you being able to help your kids right now. All right. Thanks, everybody. See you soon.
So again, that was Lynn Lyons. As I said before, some of you may have been familiar with her. And again, if you're interested in more of what she has to say, you can follow her on Facebook and perhaps listen to some of her podcasts or join some of her other things. Miss Ray, you okay? Okay. So we were going to start to answer some of the questions that you had said previously. As I say that, please feel free to put new questions in the Q&A and we'll try and address those. But I believe Miss Ray is going to address the first one, and I will mute.
Hi, everybody. So some questions had come in ahead of time. So as Ms. Shadley said, we're going to address those first, and then as your questions come in, we'll look at those as well. Something that people had asked about was really about managing conflict and social stress right now with peers and siblings. Some parents were worried about the fact that we are in these closed cohorts right now, and kids can't socialize with children in other grades. But I just want to let you know, and Ms. Waring can speak to this as well, when kids go outside, as long as they maintain social distancing, and correct me, Ms. Waring, if I'm wrong, and they are wearing masks outside, they can see their friends outside. And there's a lot of socialization that's happening even in their classrooms as well, and activities that they're doing. I hear a lot of laughter. I have a prime location where my office is on the first floor. And so the children are doing a lot of socializing, but I know that part of your concerns also are about conflict and social stress. So I just want to address, maybe some of you have seen in the mailbag, I have posted things about going into the classrooms and talking to kids about conflict resolution, managing anxiety, and I've shared some of those strategies with you, and I'm happy to do it again. Sometimes when we're feeling a lot of stress and tension in our homes, tempers can flare. Kids can say things that they didn't mean, or you can also have that tone that you didn't want to have. And one way that I love to deal with that is anybody can call take two. And I have gone into some of the classrooms and we've done it to explain that in Hollywood, the director has to do maybe 100 takes before the actors get it right. And we don't always get our reactions right either. So you can call it take two. You can ask your kid to name the scene, rewind it to right before maybe you had a reaction you didn't like, and ask before you say 3, 2, 1 action, ask what can we do differently next time? So if I opened the door and saw that my child was covered with mud and we're about to go to some place where they shouldn't be, instead of, are you covered with mud? I could say, okay, I'm going to this time open the door and see you and not freak out. I'll just say, oh, go get your clothes changed or whatever. And maybe your child had reacted to you. So you discuss it beforehand. How can we talk about this so we have a better outcome? You can do this between siblings. You can do it between you and the kids. I mean, anybody can call a take two. And then you have them call 3, 2, 1 action. You start the scene. You play it. Hopefully you get the better reaction. You call scene, and then you can debrief. How did that feel? And it's a very forgiving way, rather than, you know what, just go to your room, or I think you need to do a timeout. It's in the moment. If you feel that your child could handle doing a take two, it's a very forgiving way to, in the moment, problem solve, because it's not about what they did, it's about what they do next. It's not about what you did, it's about what you do next. And it really teaches them how to handle conflict in a way that they can see in the moment, oh, that is a better outcome. Sometimes you do have to wait, and when people can come back, you can talk about it. And sometimes even just talking about doing a take two, you don't even need to do the take two. Sometimes I've done take twos where the child is unwilling to do anything differently, and that's okay too. Another thing that you can do is family meetings to discuss some of your family values. Talk about acts of kindness that you can do every day. To ask your child when they come home from school, what were 3 kind things you did for someone today? What was something kind that someone did for you today? And it changes the lens of how our children are looking at the world when we're asking them to look through the lens of kindness. And you can discuss too, what family meetings, if anybody wants to talk to me at any point about how to conduct a family meeting, the different ways that everyone in the family can have a voice and share your values. It's a really great thing to do, especially if there's some pressing issue that you all want to talk about. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Jillian, who's going to answer another question that has come up.
Thank you, Kaylee. So another question, which I think is on the forefront of many parents' minds, and I know Ms. Waring said we are going to have a whole other webinar on this topic, is about how to manage expectations, your children's expectations when it comes to technology, and to help them regulate the amount of time they spend on it. So I would start with asking, what's the purpose of your child being online? What are they actually getting out of being online? Are they online just playing games? If that's what they're doing, well, perhaps you can redirect them to other games they have. I think a lot of the time our children want to do something, and when we redirect them to something else that they actually enjoy, they realize that, wow, Lego is just as fun as Roadblocks, as an example. I think if your child's online because they're chatting with their peers, or they're doing something that is much more of a social thing, I think that's very different than if they're just watching YouTube videos in their room. So I really think it helps to have a conversation with your child to help them differentiate between what they're doing online, why they're doing it online. And I can certainly say, if you have children who are older, that them being on FaceTime is like our ancient way of using a telephone when we were preteens. We used to sit on the phone and call our friends. They're sitting on their screen, and half the time they're not even looking at each other. They're looking at the ceiling, but that's their way of being social. So I think the real issue is having a conversation with what they're doing, why they're doing it, and then you can set up what you think is reasonable. And honestly, it's very different for different families. People at different things that they had in place before the pandemic. It's very hard to all of a sudden cut technology now as opposed to increase technology now. But I will also say the one thing with technology, 2 things actually. One is be aware of whether or not it's affecting your child's sleep patterns. There's lots and lots of research that shows the longer you're on screens and the later you're on screens affects children and adults' sleep. So be mindful of that. Set a timeline for the kids to get off their devices, put them away. And the other part of that too is I've certainly noticed in my own family, there's a big difference between watching a television, which is larger, or watching something on a smaller screen. And I think that also has an effect on kids. And it's good to ask your kids, how they actually feel physically after they've been on a screen. Do you feel as good after you've been on your screen for an hour playing video games as when you're outside or when you're doing something else? So I think there's a lot of space for you to have a rational, open conversation with your kids, preferably not when they're asking for screen time. Maybe have a family meeting and sort of set up their weekly timeline and give them some say and hear what they have to say, and really ask them what's the purpose of them being online. So there's my answer to that one. Ms. Ray?
And it's like nutrition, right? So how much are they getting that is nutritious screen time? Quality versus quantity, right? Another question that has come up is how to recognize anxiety in children, and especially in younger children, and what does that look like? So we would say that if you notice any change in your child, anything that's out of character, pay attention. It could be a change in their energy level. It could be a lack of interest suddenly. It could be loss of appetite, change in sleep patterns. They may be more irritable suddenly. I think that you want to definitely check things out with your pediatrician if they're complaining about stomach aches and headaches and feeling dizzy. It seems like dizzy is the new tummy ache. And these, as Lynn Lyons says, all of these are real. These are very real symptoms. You can watch more on her website, but they're very real symptoms. It's our brain that is sending signals to our body that is creating these symptoms. But if a child who is, just check first about their sleep, check about their eating habits, and are they constipated? Because that also can look like anxiety or depression. So once you or your pediatrician rules out that there's no physical issue that's happening, then you can talk about what that anxiety is, and to explain to your child about the connection between the mind and the brain. And Lynn Lyons says something about how nothing happens from the neck down. One of her professors once told her that didn't happen from the neck up first, that the power of our thoughts can really create physical symptoms, and to help your child make that connection. And I've been going into classrooms too and teaching your children calming strategies. I turned off the fountain in my office right now because it's very loud. But some kids, I had a grade 1 student come in last week. The teacher brought them in and said they can't concentrate. They're saying they just have too many worries. So I sat them down in the chair. I had them close their little eyes. They listened to the fountain. I took them through a guided visualization of their safe place. I didn't get into the worry, because I'm not going to escalate the worry. They needed to get back to work. It's not about the worry, because once you address one little worry, as Lynn Lyons says, there's just going to be another one, because it's not about the thing. The worry is the container for the anxiety, and they will always find something to worry about so that there can be that container. So if you do have concerns about, oh, by the way, the child did get right back to class. I often say, after I do the guided visualization and have them relax and put their little hands on their tummy and breathe, I often will say, after I take them through the visualization, okay, when you're ready, open your eyes. They don't open their eyes a full minute. They're still sitting there with their little hands on their tummies and their eyes are closed. And I don't know where they went, but it is so good wherever they went. And then finally, I think, should I say it again? Like, did they hear me? No, they heard me. They heard me. And then eventually they open their eyes. Are you ready to get back to class? And off they go. And I checked in with the teacher and the student later. Yes, they were able to get to work. So I think teaching your child strategies to calm themselves. Do you have a little corner? And I put this in one of the mailbags too, and I can post it again. Do you have a little anxiety corner? Help them to create objects that are self-soothing. Do they have their favorite stuffy or a blanket from when they were younger, or their blanket now? You can make a glitter jar that's very soothing to watch. I have a lava lamp in my office that kids love to come in and just sit and watch. And I tell kids, you don't even have to have a problem. You can just come and sit and be in here if you want to. So I think having a space in your house where they know they can go and it's calming is a very, very important thing to have. And if you have any questions more about specific concerns about your child, please feel free to contact me or Jillian. I'm swearing we're happy to help.
And just sort of on that, recognizing anxiety, there was a question about nail biting and whether it's a sign of serious anxiety. I don't want to say it's a sign of serious anxiety. I think nail biting can be in the moment someone's feeling a little more stressed than usual, something that a person, adult or child, does. I think if your child's doing it to the point where they're bleeding or their fingers are sore, you might want to consult someone about it. But I think it's always a good thing to ask why they're doing that, and if there's something else they could do instead, maybe get them a stress ball or get them some beads, or try and distract from the, the picking of their nails. But yeah, it could definitely be a sign of some kind of stress. I don't want to say serious anxiety, but yeah, it could be a sign of stress.
And the other thing is sometimes children don't even realize they're doing it. You may not even realize when you're doing it. And sometimes asking why, they don't even know, right? They may not even know. But yes, I think giving them something that they can fidget with, if it's not, even here in school, we do that. If we see if it's not too distracting, we'll give a child something to fidget with instead. But like you said, if it's bleeding and you definitely want to stop that as soon as possible, because you don't want it to develop into a habit. Yeah.
So there's another question. I actually think this question is really important, the actual issue itself isn't important, but I think it's a bigger picture that most parents, I think, are going to have to deal with at some point, especially as their children get older. So effectively, it's that one household, your family has certain rules around technology, which, you think are reasonable, an hour of games during the week and TV on the weekend, but your son or daughter has friends who effectively have a lot more freedom, leeway, and your child's starting to want, to have those same things. So the question is, how do I communicate with her or him about our family values without appearing to badmouth the other family? So I think, and again, I promise you this is going to come up. It's going to come up when they're 11. It's going to come up when they're 14. Someone is always doing something that you don't want your children to do, that it appears that other parents are letting their children do. And I think it's very important that the sooner you establish that your family has its own set of values and you function the way, you want to do, whether it's television or going out or getting a cell phone, whatever it is, that this is what our family does, and what other people do, that's fine. You're not going to judge, but that's just not what we're doing right now. And unfortunately, it might make you unpopular. And I can promise you that my children often do not like me. They don't like the decisions we make or the restrictions, we put on them. But we're consistent enough that they recognize that that's how it is at the moment for whatever it is. So I think you need to really think about, and I also think you need to put something in place that you can maintain, right? If you're going to put a rule in place, but you can't maintain it, then it's going to be very difficult to manage that. So it has to be relatively reasonable. And I also think, you can hear from your child about why they want to do something that other kids are doing, that you're not letting them, and there can be some discussion, and maybe even at some point there can be negotiation. But I think it's really important that as a family, that you, and if you're co-parenting with someone, that you establish what you're comfortable with, and that your children understand that that's what your family does, and that's okay. And other people are different and are allowed to be different, and that's just how life is.
Yeah, I think I would also add, Jillian, whatever you do decide, and I don't recommend social media for elementary school. I know there are kids who have phones, but whatever you do, be sure that you are always monitoring them. If you do allow them, make sure that you know their passwords and you can check their history, and that you're looking at the messages, and that's the deal. Like if you want to be on a chat, then I see it and I watch it and I'm the parent. I think we really need to protect our kids, and we are going to be doing a webinar coming up, I believe Ms. Waring, in March, on safety, because it's really careful that we protect our kids. Our job is not to make them happy. Our job is to protect them. And like Jillian, my son was furious with me for many things, especially in high school. I'm like, I don't care if everyone else is allowing you to do X, Y, Z. That's not what I'm going to let you do. And years later, he came back and said, wow, thank you so much. So I'm okay if you can tolerate your child being really angry with you. I think it's really important that we protect them. Yeah.
Sorry, I just want to add to that one more thing. By the way, the famous line, everyone's doing it. It's never everybody, and it's never nobody. And my children have actually tried this with me. And when I ask them who, it's very interesting because and again, they're young. I'm sure that as they get older, they'll have a list of who, but they don't really have an answer. So the everybody often diminishes to, one or two people, but our children are very smart, and they want what they want when they want it. And I think we just need to, hold our ground, and sometimes just accept the fact that parenting is not as fun as all the time. So yeah. There's a question, or sorry, there's a comment more about just children feeling very lonely, about friends being in the other classes. I Again, and maybe Miss Waring can chime in this. My understanding, as Miss Ray was saying, is that outside on the field, there's a bit more leeway for kids to play with their peers. Miss Waring?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
A little bit, but I think what this also, and it's common this year. I will say, this is a big one. I think because even on the field, I think we all have have a loneliness. I think just, I don't know, hearing the news this week that it's continuing, the isolation. I think that this really has an impact, even though they're here with people all day. So yes, so I think most importantly, and the counselors can take it from there, but so yes, outside from a distance if the mask, but if it is younger students, they're not always wearing the mask. So grades 1, 2, and 3 really are more in their cohorts for outdoor, because they're not wearing their masks as often. So they really are in their cohorts. But again, from a distance, they can still, hey, how's it going? There are a lot of these social skills though, but they're used to physical contact. Kids at that age play side by side. They actually don't socialize a lot, but they actually are close together. Just someone else's presence is what some of these children really need, and that's really difficult for them. I also think, I can't say it enough, and I think the counselors can continue from here, but I do think the best we can do for the groups is like finding one person. Is there one person in the class you're in? This is the situation we're in, unfortunately, but that there really is. If they can just find one person that they feel connected to, they might not think, and if they need help, to reach out to the teachers for that, because we can help facilitate that, because those are skills. It's hard to know how to make friends, and again, given all the context, we usually recommend to parents have play dates and get together on weekends, and we can't do that. And so those things are challenges, but that's where we really want you to reach out to the teachers and tell us that your child's, having difficulties with that. And we want to help facilitate opportunities with variety of kids to find that connection. And we want to help facilitate that for you. And as well with the counselors, and but that's something that's really important to us. And I do think at all ages it looks different, that loneliness that the child's experiencing, but also that missed physical connection, like I say, with the younger students who often just do parallel play. But if you haven't found that person for you, but we're here to help, as we keep saying. So please connect with the teachers, myself, Miss Ray. We'd be happy to support your child in that, because that's hard for us to hear.
Something else I've been doing too is creating lunchtime clubs to help facilitate and create new connections among students in different grades. So if you want to talk to me about any issues that your child is having socially, there are ways that we can focus in and really try to help your child. I think too, virtual play dates are really important. Different ways that kids can get together, and again, that's not screen time. Connecting, it's like what Ms. Shadley said. It's like the old telephone, and I really encourage people not to take away, as a consequence for any unwanted behavior, their mode of communicating with their friends, because communicating with their friends is not screen time. It's a really important socialization tool, and it's all that they have on the weekends. And so I would encourage everybody to just loosen up a little. I don't know where you were at pre-COVID with screen time, But I think it's really important now more than ever that our kids feel connected when they're not in school. And that is also a great way for them to connect with their friends who are in other classes. It's not exactly the same, of course. I was just thinking last night, like, could you do a virtual sleepover? Like, what would that look like? You know, like I pictured, like, if we could all just build forts in our house, and we could bring hot chocolate, and can you share the screen to watch a movie together, and all of you do popcorn, and you can see each other in your little forts, and you're eating popcorn together, and you're watching a movie with a friend, and then maybe 3 families get together and talk about it, or create activities around it, or I don't know. I'm really wondering, like, how do we connect our children in fun ways? I know a lot of you have been doing virtual birthday parties, which I know it's been really hard for a lot of kids. And I think another question that comes up too is, you know, the isolation, especially for those of us who have family outside of Canada. It's really, really hard. I have a son in New York City who I haven't seen since a year ago, January. It's really, really hard not seeing them. But thank goodness we have technology. Thank goodness our children are being raised to know how to connect. I think it's especially, you know, difficult for elderly who don't have these tools. But if we can brainstorm ways that we can come up with connections. I know a parent had asked about extracurricular. How can we, you know, and I think that really is a job for parents, because we can't be running extracurriculars now. Ms. Waring can talk more about that. But I think it's important that we find creative ways. So I'm happy to help parents brainstorm ways that we can connect our children virtually. Game nights. I know there's a lot of fun stuff online that we can play as families and with relatives who live abroad. All get together and play a game online. There's ways that we can connect. Okay.
I'm just going to show everyone the results of the second poll we did, just about your concerns. Probably not a big surprise, but most people are concerned about their child's peer socialization. One thing I think, you know, we are in February, spring's coming. I know vaccine rollout in this province is very slow, but it's still happening. I think we're moving in the right direction in terms of getting to a place where our kids will be sort of back where we were, where they can be outside, they can be seeing, like socializing a little bit more, you know, like I said, spring, summer are coming. So had we done this meeting in November, perhaps I wouldn't have been as optimistic, but I think there's good things coming. I don't think it's getting worse. I think things are getting better. And I think that's also something to remind our kids, you know, it's, you know, in a couple of months, hopefully things will open up a bit more in the province, and that'll allow our kids to be amongst each other a little more. There was a question about having an only child and how to try and encourage them to do activities or things on their own. That's a very interesting question. I think it depends on your child's interests too. I know some kids love to read. Some kids enjoy. My son will go and set up a board game on his own and go play, quite frankly, because no one wants to play the game with him anymore. But he'll set that up and play a game by himself. I think in this context, screen time with a peer that's not that could somehow be more interactive, sort of what Ms. Ray was talking about, is a possibility. Another parent also mentioned, just in terms of connection, you know, Fortnite, Minecraft. Yeah, I mean, they're games. I wonder if there's other things kids could do online. You know, back in the day, again, I'm dating myself, but people used to sit on the phone and do homework together. You know, kids could work on projects. Kids could, you know, make paper airplanes and launch them off your stairs together. See who goes farther with a screen on. You know, set up a maze. I think we need to try and push our kids to to be a little more creative. You know, what would you do if you didn't actually have a video game to play? You know, what could we do? And we see it here. Your kids are all very creative people. Maybe when they get home, they want to pretend they're not. But, you know, I go into after school and there's no screens going on. And, you know, there's a pile of 8, 9, 10-year-old boys who are occupying themselves. You know, they're building things, they're drawing, they're playing cards. They figure it out when we put up boundaries for them. And if we just say, no, you're not going to use a screen, go find something else. You know, you might have to help them along, but they do find it. And again, to Ms. Ray's point about laughter, there's a lot more laughter around our school, luckily, than there are tears. Your children are happy to be here. They go past my office, you know, outside, they're laughing, they're smiling, they're all bundled up to go play on the snow pile or do whatever it is there. I think in terms of what we're living through, they seem to be in a good place. So I think, you know, I just wanted to share that with you. So, you know, most of the time they're happy. Would you not agree, Ms. Ray?
Yes, I would agree. And they're all, I know this question about the only child. I'm a mother of an only child. I think that I know you want them to move away from screen, but you could also, if you want to connect kids, so for socialization, if you opened up a Zoom and you did the whiteboard, they could do drawings together. I mean, there's all kinds of ways that technology can also connect us. So screen time that's socialization, I think, is very different than, you know, I know that, you know, some of you have children who are virtual learning right now, and so you kind of would like to get them to move away. But at the same time, I would like to see more interaction with, especially with our remote learners, to have to be able to connect with their peers. So I'm going to actually try to work on that as well, to create more hangout time.
And I'll
Yeah.
only add one other. I know a lot of it is if you have time and kids are home, like I say, there are not a lot of other things to do after. But with children, certain things that motivate them is that, you know, do something in a certain amount of time. Go and turn on a timer and ask them to go and build you something. As Miss Ray said, I know that those is just trying to come up with small things that also is a great outlet for your kids with, but I know that you have things to do and they have no one else to be with, but kids really love that. Or I challenge you to use the color blue and make me a picture like this. Go, I'm working on my things. If you can do a couple of activities like that, and then they could also then share those things with their friends after. But even if you're just trying to look for some extra things for children who are really on their own and don't have others to play with, and you're not always available, but kids love challenges like that, but they do need that feedback from you. I think they really thrive on that. So knowing that you're going to see what they built after, or giving them that timer to accomplish a task, and then you're going to validate that after, is usually also a really helpful way to help pass some time and also do some neat creative things, but support them along the way. Go ahead.
There was one other thing that someone wrote about watching their child seems a lot more angry. And then if you wanted, Jillian, just post the final polls while we're finishing this. And I could just talk a little and then we'll wrap it. But I just want to say, you know, again, anger can be an expression of anxiety, certainly. I have been going into a lot of the classrooms teaching anger management, where children feel anger in their bodies, how to recognize the warning signs. And we've been exploring all different ways that they can calm themselves down and do other activities to help them release the tension and the anger. But please feel free to call me if you have any specific concerns about your child and how to get strategies for helping them, or any parenting issues that you may have. We're all three of us are available whenever you need us.
So we'd love your feedback. We just put up a poll to see about future topics. There's about 72% of you have finished. looks like screen time is still the most popular thing to talk about. So Ms. Waring, you're right on with your planning. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and then we have one more poll. We'd love your feedback on how informative you felt today's webinar was. We'd love your feedback.
I'm just going to give this one more
Sure.
couple more minutes because I can't launch the next one until
Okay.
this one.
Okay.
I'll see if I get to 90%.
All right. Someone had also asked about, can you share with us the visualization that you do? So if you'd like to contact me, I can also put it in the mailbag if you like. I'll type it up for you. So you can, and there are lots of resources available too online for guided visualizations. This one is I take a child to their safe place. Picture your safe place.
Yeah, we will
Okay.
be able to share a lot of the resources in next week's mailbag. There is one going out today, so we're a bit tight on the turnaround, but we will make sure to share resources with you in next week's mailbag.
So I just launched that last one too, just feedback. There we go. So I believe we're out of time. So I again thank you all for coming and joining us over lunch. Hopefully you can still have a lunchtime, and I suggest going outside. Apparently it's lovely out. It's a nice beautiful winter day. And again, as Miss Ray said, please feel free to email or reach out to either of us. And look forward to seeing you all in person one day soon.
Yeah. And I'm available too for virtual meetings anytime.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great
Bye.
afternoon. Take care. We'll see you soon.
Thanks.